those days were where I actually had like a meal a day, 3 to 4 hours of sleep. But that was my fun days, the most memorable, those days that actually, really make me want to get up and go to work.
Hello and welcome to AG Speaks Digital Marketing Talk Show. Here we share with you cool tools, tips and tricks, and lots of useful information and insights to help you get more leads and customers for your business. Welcome to episode 12 of AG Speak Digital Marketing Talk Show. And today I have a very special guest with me, Andrew Wong. So Andrew, my dear friends, has 30 plus years of work experience. And for the last 2 years, he has been focusing on helping businesses how to do email marketing right. So welcome, Andrew. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Good morning and happy Valentine's Day, Anjali.
Thank you. Thank you. What a wonderful day to be recording our session today. So, Andrew, let's begin. I wanted to understand your backstory a little bit. How did you start, or when did you decide to take the plunge of being an entrepreneur, and when did this moment arrive on you?
I knew very early, very young in my age, when I was like 7 or 8, when kids were saying that, they want to be pilot, they want to be doctors and all those stuff. I was attracted to stuff like advertisements, ads on newspapers. And I actually started collecting, cutting out all these ads and learning and having this fascination with typography and all the stuff. I pretty much knew at that point that I want to get into advertising, though I was very young, but I knew that area is kind of cool. It was subconsciously guided in my career choices, because when I left school, my first job was in a bank. And I actually interviewed this when I was sitting for my Form 6 exam. Day after the last paper, I actually went for an interview. So I spent 3 years in a bank. It was miserable because it's all SOP, it's all standards, it's somebody else's rules. Fast forward, then I saw an ad for an apprenticeship kind of training in a newspaper. It was the Straits Times. But they pay at that point, compared to what I was getting in the bank, they paid about half. It was an allowance. So I quietly applied for it. It was a pre-selling skills training. Anyway, I applied and I got in. I think the allowance was about 400 ringgit at that point. I was getting about double in the bank, plus other things. So I told my mom, I'm going to quit this job and I'm going to go for this. This training, there's no guarantee that they're going to offer you a job. You got to complete, and then the newspaper will then decide whether you are suitable to join them. And I told my mom, I said, I'm going to quit this job in a bank and I'm going to apply for this. But there's no guarantee I'm going to get a job, but I'm going to go for it. And those days, the older people is, if you get a job in a bank, it's like secure for life.
Safe.
So here you go, you have your eldest son decided to do something crazy like this. And she refused to speak to me for a month. But I went ahead. I mean, I'm a kind of rebel in that sense. So I just went ahead and then I got in. I got into the top 3. Applied for a job, and that's where the journey to newspaper ads started. The thing about entrepreneurship for me is work was something that it didn't come across as, something that's very difficult. I actually, because the newspaper industry operate like, almost every day, irrespective of holiday. It was a playground to me. I was working like 7 days a week. And I learned a lot of stuff, including things like copywriting and all those things. Because my role was basically selling ad spaces, and specifically classified ad spaces.
Understood.
But because the organization was so huge, and then somehow one day I found myself in the production floor. And I actually learned from that. So I spent the 9 to 5 was doing my sales work. 6, have a quick dinner. And then 7 onwards was hanging out in the production floor with the guys and to learn about printing, to learn about the nuances, the pixels,
right,
and all the stuff. One day, it was one of those days where late at night, and I normally hang out about up to 12 midnight. So one day, there was an empty space in the classified column, because when you align the ads, those small classified, they will have empty spaces. And one of the production hands say, hey, what do we do with this? There's an empty space, Can you put an ad, a house ad, and they call it a house ad. So there was no designers. It's after work. It's like midnight. So I just quickly wrote something. And the bosses weren't around. So I just wrote a simple ad to promote something within the newspaper.
Okay.
And they ran with it.
Okay.
And soon after, because of that, I became the go-to guy. And I literally had to write like short copy, like, within a couple of minutes and all to get those things done. And I enjoyed it. That's where the idea of writing, and I wasn't trained into it. When after 6 years, when we were doing all these ads, and I've got an offer from a friend and a partner and says, okay, let's come out and set up an internet company, a web design company. It was still new, way before the 2000, .com bust and all those things. So I took a leap. And that's where we created a web design house. And that was my introduction to the world of internet. That's why that normal 9 to 5 didn't occur to me even early in the stage of my career. And when I started doing the web design, entrepreneurship becomes natural, the working hours at least. Maybe not the experience, but the working hours at least. And I carried this throughout all my career. Like, that's why it's no longer work. It's basically part and parcel of life. When the 2000 things hit, we were pretty much established because we had clients like AirAsia. We had clients like the national oil companies, banks, and all those things. We were even offered to be acquired by a listed company. .com, everybody wants a .com. So we kind of like caught into that whirlwind. There was an offer, or there was a discussion to acquire us for quite a significant sum. But unfortunately, my partner decided, and he wanted to wait because he was thinking that the value should be higher.
Right.
After 9 months or so, then the whole thing kind of like
crashed,
went south. So the offer was lapsed, and eventually we kind of like went into different direction, because I wanted to take us into stuff like what we're doing now, like building apps, do a lot more web-based kind of programming. For him, he was comfortable with the idea of charging a couple of $1,000s just to build a 1-2 pager website. And it's basically a competition that basically it can only go down the price. So, but when I start doing stuff like e-commerce and things like that, I could charge a premium. But the downside is you need to basically recruit like engineers and coding and programmers, and they're not cheap. So it was against my partner's kind of like business model. To him is, he used to tell me that the cost of the staff should not be more than 10 to 15% of the total business revenue.
Right.
Yeah, basically you're just asking for manual labor, So it kind of like, it didn't gel with me, because if you want to add value, you really needed to do something that is a lot more complex, solve complex problems rather than simple doing websites. So eventually we went our own ways, and I ended up with a friend of mine, which was also acquired during when we were in the web design firm, and he started this cybersecurity company, and says, okay, fine, I'll just join you as to help out whatever way it is.
I see.
And lo and behold, I spent 18 years in that company.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Interesting. So now you joined a completely different industry, and you were this new friend of yours, you started working for them in cybersecurity space, is it?
Yes.
After 18 years of working as an employee, then you decided to take a plunge again and start your own entrepreneurial journey. So tell me about that, Andrew. How did that come about?
So that's the what you call it in movie. You call it what, a part 3, take 3. I at one point that was in 2019. I sort of like grew tired with the idea of selling. I was good at it, but when you're doing B2B selling, that was purely B2B selling. There was nothing much. You kind of know the drill. The method of gaming the system, or so-called competing against your competitors and beating them. And I saw that rise in digital marketing, and I said, this is the new form of selling and marketing. And I touched my big 50, and that was the turning point. And it says, if I trace back from print, which is advertising, then I went to internet, which is web design and internet-based stuff. And those were the most fun days. I mean, it was tough because during the internet days, when you're running your own business, you have pressure because you have staff. You have to make sure that you get the sales. Right. And then you make sure that the work is being assigned properly. And as far as they're concerned, they show up, they do their work, they expect to be paid. And end of the year, they expect to get bonuses. And it's on you as a business owner to make sure all this is done. Those days were where I actually had like a meal a day, 3 to 4 hours of sleep. But that was my fun days, the most memorable, those days that actually, really make me want to get up and go to work.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
after 18 years, I kind of like, I got bored, and you know that something inside you is dying,
mm,
right? It's
mm,
not the work. It's just that the passion kind of like, there's no more fire in it. You just do what you need to do, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I reached my 50,
Mm,
and I said I didn't want to settle. The thing that I was more afraid of is I do not want one day when I'm 60 or whatever, when I retire and I look at it, is I didn't want to regret and says, what if I've done this? So when I saw the rise of digital marketing and it fits into my earlier so-called passion for it, and I knew that was something I wanted to do, I basically then make a decision and says, it's either now or it's
Never.
either I continue with my work, which is not too bad. I get, good pay and all
Good
those
pay
stuff.
and
Great,
yeah,
yeah, comfortable. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
If I continue one more year, I would not have left because
You're too
as you get
secure.
older,
Yeah, yeah.
So 50 was that point where I decided and says, okay, do I do it or I don't do it? The turning point was in March during the pandemic.
I see.
All of a sudden, business, everything grounded to a stop, and my boss wanted to relook at the entire business model. So I told him, I says, I'm going to change too, and I'm going to do this. And initially, he wanted to say, basically, why don't we partner? Why don't you set it up as a subsidiary of this company? So he's a very nice guy, very supportive guy, good friend. But I told him, I says, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And the last thing I want is to go through that process where you become a subsidiary of reporting and all that, because I wanted the freedom to pivot. I just want to go out and start something. I don't know what exactly. Something related to digital marketing as far as I'm concerned, but nothing, not sure. So I think let's do a clean break. Okay? I can still manage your internet stuff, and basically let me try it out. And then let's take 1 or 2 years and then see where I am, and then we can collaborate again. So that's what I did. So I made that decision there and then.
Awesome.
And it's been bubbling all the while.
Awesome. Your family was supportive, Andrew?
I just told my wife, I says, okay, I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I'm going to do this. And I said, okay, fine.
Hey, tell me, Andrew, when you decided to go on your own, digital marketing is like a wide field, right? So what made you hone in, or what made you choose that I'm going to be the email expert? Okay. Where did that insight land from?
Prior to that big 50, when I made that final decision to just break up, I had about a year and a half within a company because I was the head of sales. And we also discussed about the rise of digital marketing and how we can use within our B2B cybersecurity business. So I told him, why don't I run this? I don't know what I'm going to spend some money to learn this. And since I have experience in sales, so I know what the customer wanted and all those things. So why don't I run this little division? You find somebody else, within the sales team to head the sales, and let me focus into this. So I had kind of 1.5 year head start. I see. And to actually play around with it. I see. I started by redoing the entire website and because of my website experience, I had time, so I can actually redo the website for the company, setting up emails and all those things. And at the same time, I actually spent a lot of money going for online classes and learn. So because to me, work is never 9 to 5, so it's okay. After work, I was learning and all those things.
And you were able to apply your learning in the company, right? Because you were whatever you were learning, you were also applying.
Correct. So whatever I learned, I do that. And the thing with email was because even the early days, I used to communicate with my clients and prospects with email. So I basically play around with it. And at the same time, I did a little side hustle. It's more of an experiment because I wanted to run ads. I didn't know how. And I didn't want to gamble the company's money with running ads. So I so-called signed up with affiliates. At one point I got a good friend and I was an affiliate for his Chinese metaphysics course and all those things. So, and I used my own money. I ran some ads, experiment with it. And when I got the leads, I actually start using email to follow up. And that's what they teach in online school.
Right,
You know,
right.
you get
right.
leads, you use emails to follow up.
Yeah.
So I did that. You know, it was basically, I ran each campaign. I did about 15 to 16 emails.
Mhm.
I actually had sales from
Wow.
students from Mexico,
Yeah.
from Holland,
Yeah.
and all those things. And that's where it opened my eyes and says, okay, now I have a low cost way of getting to people or communicating
Right.
with. And it all fits into, and I'm not good in writing long articles or blog articles, but short articles like emails I can do.
Right.
So there was this convenience of short articles, ability to talk to people on a one-to-one basis.
Right.
And I just, so when I came out, I said, okay, the simplest way, if I, like you say, if you do digital marketing, it's so wide. What you do, Facebook ads, social media management,
Yeah.
SEO, there's so many areas. And I'm not, I mean, for somebody to say I'm good in all this is impossible.
It's impossible.
So I decided to just niche down, and says, let's do email. Maybe one day I get better, I can do the rest. But for now, let's do email.
Right. Very nice. So how's been the journey so far? How did you get those deals going? Did you use your previous network? Or how did you manage to convince your first few clients that you are the right choice for them to do the email marketing for them?
Oh, it was tough.
Yeah.
Because most of and most of my contacts those days were IT managers and IT directors.
Right.
They were never into marketing.
Right.
So technically speaking, when I came out, I actually started from ground zero. There was no referrals. There was no clients because IT don't talk to sales and marketing anyways. So if I say, can you refer me? They say, I don't know this guy, or I'm not very familiar with them.
That's right.
So I had to literally rebuild my name, authority and reputation and all this stuff from ground zero. That's where I learned, stuff like Facebook, LinkedIn, organic, and all this stuff. And I'm still building up. So putting up content, earning that kind of awareness, one connection at a time, I guess.
When was the first break that you got as the first client that you acquired? And
the first client was actually my good friend Jason. When the pandemic hits, because he was basically doing in-person training.
Right.
And then I was like that was already to the verge of getting out. And so basically what I did is I basically helped him with his initial emails. I says, let's do this. Let's try. And there was no money kind of thing. It was just helping a good friend. And he was my teacher as far as Facebook ads is concerned.
Right.
And then he referred me to a client.
I see.
And we signed up that first client.
Nice.
And basically from there.
So tell me, what are some of the common, like there was a time when I myself believed I was involved in a lot of messenger marketing. And then I compared the conversion rates of emails versus the conversion rates that you saw in marketing campaigns that are run around messaging apps. And I saw a big difference. At one time, I believed email marketing is dead. So what are some of the misconceptions that you feel people have around email marketing?
What I realized and what I've discovered now is email marketing is a long-term game. Number one. Number two, I use this. You use social media. Social media gives you some form of immediacy, and you get exposure to a certain extent. But you use social media to attract prospects, to promote in public. You would use email to sell in private. So, for example, let's say now I'm putting up content. It's free content. I may make an offer on my social media or LinkedIn account, for example. So I'm basically promoting in public. I'm telling everybody that I have this service and all those stuff. But they will see it, but not everybody will react to it. Now, those who did would either email me or either DM me, for example, and I will add them into my newsletter. So now I have 2 newsletters that I write to my list. They would then basically get a taste of how I do things. And over time, when I make an offer on email and those on my list, that's where you get the real conversion. So the newsletters that I do is basically as a pro. So if somebody asks me, how good are you in email and and all this stuff, I say just join my newsletter. If you're convinced with it, This is what I do. And I show up every day. I send you an email every day. And you see how I work. If you're convinced with it, then you can work with me if you want. If not, then it's fine.
Okay. So what I hear you say is that you are right now pursuing a system where you are connecting with you're building your list and you're
Yes.
connecting with your audience almost on a daily basis through emails.
Yes.
After having nurtured your audience for some time, what is the conversion rate that you're seeing happen? Is it working for you?
So when I was doing this, I started this about a year already, since 2021, of setting up my newsletters. Now the downside is this. Okay, this is one thing that you need to be aware of with
Okay.
emails. You got to have offers
Right.
to actually make email work. Otherwise, it becomes just one way where you share information or content,
And they're reading it.
and they're reading it, they're getting value from it, they'll follow you, but there's no transaction.
There's no transaction.
So to make email worthwhile as a marketing and commercial tool, is you got to have offers.
Right.
So this year, I'm going to create tons of offers. Some are courses, some are done for you services, for example. Some are coaching. So all these are in the works. When you send value content, you then have an extra paragraph that says that, if you like this and you want to take this to the next level, for example, here's an offer.
Right.
It was not a selling thing, but it's more like, by the way, this is an invitation.
By the way,
if you want.
sort of PS, like a PS under the email, right?
Right. So
Very interesting.
So to answer your questions, my conversion, as far as open rates, I'm hitting about 25 to 35%. Click-through rates about 4 to 5%. But there's nothing to shout about because I didn't make any offer. Right?
Okay.
Come back to me in 6 months' time when I start running these offers. I will be able to tell you. But since last week, 2 weeks ago, I made an offer for my 52x emails. It was a done for you service. And one of my subscribers, I think he was on my list for about 4 months plus. And then he reached out to me to consider or taking up this particular done for you service. So there you have it.
Many people think that the way you do email marketing for a B2B business versus for a B2C business is going to be very different. So what is your view on that?
You got to make some tweaks when it comes to B2C and B2B email marketing. B2C, you're dealing with a person who's reading your email, and he or she is going to make the decision whether to buy or take up your offer. Very clear. But when it comes to B2B, there are so many stakeholders. For example, let's say you email, let's say, an engineer who uses or who needs a product or a service that you offer. But he has a boss to report. And the boss will probably have other stakeholders or other managers or HOD that, the finance guy, for example, the legal guy, for example, and the big boss, for example, if the value is big. So basically you have a lot more stakeholders. So when you write your B2B, that's where you need to be very precise when it comes to segmenting your audience. And you got to write a lot more because each email is customized according to the function and the profile of the particular reader. So if I want to talk about, let's say I'm selling a cybersecurity product and I have, let's say, the finance director email or the finance people email, I have to write my proposition in the form of, the value of, how can you actually save the company money? What sort of financial efficiency that by using this system helps? And if I write to, let's say, the C-suite, right, or basically the CEO level, whatever it is, then it becomes, how does this cybersecurity solution actually protect your company's brand, protect your company's data? Because if shit happens and legal comes up to you, the C-suite is going to get it, right? Then when it goes to the IT manager side, it's basically say, how can I make your work easier? So same product, but the languaging and the messaging and the approach is different.
Right. And how does it differ in a B2C then? Like, wouldn't you follow a similar segmenting approach when it comes to B2C, depending on who your target audience is?
When you do B2C, you are segmenting based on their interests. When you're talking B2B, you're segmenting based on their roles.
profile or the roles that they play. That's an interesting insight. Yes. So wonderful. So tell me, Andrew, what percentage, or if you had to give on a scale of 1 to 10 importance, right? How important is the content of the message that you sent in the email versus the other technical factors, whether those are deliverability, making sure that email does not land in the spam folder, or doing the technical part of email marketing right?
In the long run, it's definitely content. In the initial stages, when you're starting up, the deliverability, the technical side. Okay, there's two sides of email marketing: the mechanical and the art side of marketing.
Right.
So the good thing about mechanical side is you if you set it up right first time, it's done. You rarely need to fiddle with it unless you change your email service provider or whatever it is. But generally speaking, the initial stages, you focus on the mechanical, get your domain, get your deliverability, get your authentication, everything set up, done. Then the 90% of the work is the art part, which is your content.
So content wins.
Content wins, right? So you got to set that foundation. So if you ask me, this is a foundation, the mechanical side, and the rest, how, the foundation generally, like in building a building, is basically that it's not sexy. It's just cement, concrete, and basically wires. But what you build on top of it, it's up you to define. You can build a Guggenheim if you want to, or you can build a Petronas Twin Tower, whatever it is. So that's the art part of it.
Who are the top people or top influences in your life, and what have you learned from them?
If it's okay, we have friends. We've got people like I've got mentors or friends like Maverick and Bob, which I learned a lot from them. But in terms of somebody who has a lot of impact as to what they do, I would probably say, have you heard of this gentleman called Joey Yap?
No.
He's a very famous Chinese metaphysics teacher. Joeyyap, Joey Yap.
Okay.
Right? So he teaches Chinese metaphysics, but he teaches it in English. But he has leveraged social media and digital marketing.
Wow, okay.
Right? On average, for example, now his coverage is like he has students from 60 plus countries. And what is impressive is he's able to so-called teach a very technical subject and a complicated one, especially because it's based on Chinese culture and metaphysics and stuff like this. He's managed to basically transform it to the modern environment.
I see.
And deliver the message or deliver the same teaching in a way that a lot of people like us who are not familiar with it can actually relate. So that's something that's impressive, that it's not for the so-called high-tech kind of things that you can do digital marketing. Almost everything you can do digital marketing. If somebody can teach you feng shui in using digital marketing, that's what they can do.
Very nice. Thank you so much for sharing that.
My pleasure.
And tell me something, for somebody, like a lot of my viewers and people who listen to this show are people who want to start their businesses and who are entrepreneurs wanting to become successful. For somebody who's took a plunge at 50 plus, for the third time, like, two stints in the past and then third time at 50 plus. What is the word of advice you would give to them? How would you encourage them, to take that leap?
Before you even make that decision I wouldn't encourage you guys to follow whatever I do. It's something totally crazy. It is counterintuitive, right? But what you should do is this. If you're working for somebody now, start treating your boss as your shareholder and whatever you do as your business. Okay, now this is a slight mindset shift. And that's what I did most of the time, since the early days. Is I don't treat my boss as my boss. Because if you treat a person as your boss, he's going to say, okay, boss, you tell me what I need to do, I do, and then I deliver. At the end of the day, that's it.
Right.
Talk comes the year-end assessment. But if you treat your boss as a shareholder, that means he or she or the company is investing through your monthly salary a certain amount to fund your operation. And you are the CEO of whatever division or department you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Your responsibility is, are you adding value to this business?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when you start thinking this way, you're then shifting yourself to think and act like an entrepreneur, because it's no longer 9 to 5. If you're running a business that's so such as 9 to 5, it takes over your entire life. It's your life. When you are ready to that point and you start thinking this way, then when you make that jump, then it is an easier transition. Like I said, I'm already working Monday to Sunday. So whether I'm working for people or working for myself, it's the same thing. Number one. Number two is this. Try something, do some side gigs to test out your ideas. Start small. Right. So if you writing, put up, it's so simple now with social media, basically put up your profile, put up whatever you do and start writing. The reason why I do my daily emails was I wanted to get better in writing. So the only way I do is to write daily, and then that's where I get feedback. Sometimes people don't open my email. Okay, fine. That means either my subject line is issue or people don't respond. That means my content is crap. That's fine, because I can always try again the next day.
That's right.
At worst, if they really hate my writing, they'll unsubscribe. But that's fine. It's between me and them. Once you do this, you change your mindset as an entrepreneur from within an organization that you work with, because you are the brand. Your division is your business. You take responsibility for it. Okay. And when you do that, and then when you start testing your ideas with your side gigs, okay, and the moment you see traction, that's where you start building.
Thank you, Andrew, for sharing that advice.
If you're not ready for a pain, don't do it. I mean, between entrepreneurship and working for people, somebody else is going to handle marketing, somebody else is going to handle technical stuff when you work for people.
That's
you just focus on your role. That's quite straightforward, right?
Yes.
But when you're an entrepreneur, especially if a startup, you have to do everything.
Yes.
And at the very least, unless you have lots of money or people funding you, but even people funding you, you have to deliver. That's another thing. Nobody's going to give you money for free.
For free, yeah. Nothing comes for free.
The pressure of somebody dropping $50 million into your business and say, I trust you, here's $50 million. You can literally feel the pressure of delivering that.
Absolutely.
Okay? This is very important, because I've seen friends who have ambition to want to come up, but if their mindset is, I want me time, Sundays off, I want to have my family holidays 3 times a year, and all those things, it ain't going to work.
Thank you, Andrew, for your time today. And we really learned some wonderful insights about email. And do you have any special offers or any special deal that you want to offer our viewers and listeners?
You go to my website and reach out to me. You can follow me on my LinkedIn.
Okay.
Is Andrew Wong, or you find out the email guy, you should be able to see me.
Okay.
Find me there. And from time to time, I will make offers. But if you want to connect with me, you can connect me on LinkedIn. We can talk. I'm doing now a campaign for 52X emails. I call it. It's a campaign I do where I help you write 52 emails, which is enough if you're sending 1 email a week. Just book a call, get on, and then let's see how I can help you. It's a paid service. So it depends. If you need somebody to write the emails for you, we can do that. Otherwise, follow me on LinkedIn, and whenever there's any new offers or training or courses that I do, if it's right for you, you are invited to join.
So to find Andrew, you have to go on his website, antz.digital. You can find him on LinkedIn as the email guy. If you just Google the email guy, Andrew, you will find him. And Andrew shares a lot of valuable information about how to do email marketing right. Subscribe to his newsletter. Thank you, Andrew, for joining me on this call today and sharing all those valuable nuggets and insights. I really appreciate it. See you soon.
Julie, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it a lot.